Hi there, thank you, sincerely, for giving this video your attention. If you choose to follow my channel, I can't tell you how much that would mean. Now let's get started. As he passed the kitchen doorway, he hesitated. Two coffee mugs waited in the sink. One bore the smudge of lipstick. The other had a blackened edge, a small, unmistakable burn mark from a cigarette. Ethan didn't smoke. Lena had always forbidden it. Unless, of course, it was someone from her past. Someone who earned exceptions. Still, Ethan said nothing. No reaction showed. He continued upstairs and walked into their bedroom. Everything was unnaturally tidy. The bed had been made too precisely. Crisp corners, tight tucks. Lena never made the bed like that. Ever. The air felt unnervingly still, the silence almost manufactured. He turned on his phone, expecting the usual. A message from Lena, maybe a list, a sweet note, a reminder. Milk, love you, be safe. But what greeted him instead was different. A chain of messages from Aria, their teenage daughter. Dad, come home. We need to talk. That was all. He scrolled further. One unread text, an unknown number. Attached, a single image. Lena, in the arms of another man. A man he knew all too well. Brady Mallard, his closest friend, the best man at his wedding, co-founder of the company they built together, his fishing buddy, his brother in all but blood. And now the man tangled in bed sheets with Ethan's wife. The phone nearly slipped from Ethan's hand, but his expression gave nothing away. Years in business had taught him how to mask fury, to swallow it like scalding espresso, harsh, bitter, and dangerous when left inside. Then he heard movement downstairs, measured steps, hesitant. Dad? Aria's voice floated up to him. He turned and made his way down. She stood at the bottom of the stairs, her face blotchy, eyes puffy. Guilt clung to her like damp clothes. I should have told you, she murmured. I just didn't know how. He looked at her closely, really saw her, his daughter, his legacy, and he realized the betrayal went deeper than marriage. You knew, he said, voice cold and even. She nodded slowly, fresh tears forming. 3 months, maybe longer. I didn't want to hurt you. He nodded once, slowly, like closing a heavy door. Too late. There was no shouting, no broken glass. Calmly, he walked to his study, opened a drawer, and took out an envelope. One he'd put together back when his instincts first started whispering. The private investigator had been thorough, more than he expected. Photos, timelines, screenshots, undeniable evidence. He set the envelope on the kitchen table and looked at Aria. Give this to your mother, he said, and tell her. I'll see her in court. But the courtroom wasn't the battleground he'd prepared for. Ironclad evidence, DNA tests proving the unborn child wasn't his. None of it mattered the way he expected. Not even the crumbling state of Brady's own marriage tipped the scale. Judge Holbrook raised a hand, sighing. 20 years of marriage, a shared child, shared assets. I'm ordering counseling before any divorce proceedings. Ethan's face remained still. His lawyer, Ron, leaned close. We can object. This is absurd. Ethan's lips curved faintly. Let them think I'm broken, that I'm chasing healing. Ron studied him. You're working an angle. Ethan sat back. Of course. Lena sat across the courtroom, visibly drained. Her shawl barely clung to her shoulders, concealing the swell of her stomach. Brady, unsurprisingly, was absent. So the therapy sessions began. Once a week, they sat side by side on a faded couch that smelled of lavender and unresolved pain. The therapist asked questions. Lena cried. Ethan listened. Sometimes he offered words, always measured. But beneath the surface, his mind worked non-stop. Quietly, he began shifting shares, creating trusts, securing assets, and rekindling old alliances, including one crucial player, Brady's wife. She didn't yet know her world was built on a lie. One night, Aria knocked gently at his door. Her eyes were rimmed in red. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't want any of this. He looked up from a stack of legal documents. I know. She sat down, folding into herself. Mom says you're trying to ruin her. She says this isn't what families do. He turned toward her. Families don't hide the truth. Families don't protect lies. I'm not the one tearing her down. She made that choice. Her voice quivered. What about the baby? Ethan didn't look away. That's not my child. That's not my responsibility. Let her clean up the mess she made. Arya's lip trembled. Will you destroy her? He shook his head. Number the truth will do that. I'm just making sure no one turns their head. By the fifth therapy session, Lena sat with her fingers clenched in her lap. The room was still, filled with the faint sounds of a piano and ocean-themed paintings. Dr. Moreno adjusted her glasses and looked at Lena. Last time you said you felt invisible. Can you elaborate? Tears sprang to Lena's eyes. He was always working, creating an empire, and I was proud. But somewhere in it all, I faded. I became background, I cleaned, cooked, smiled for photos, but he stopped seeing me. Ethan remained silent. I'm not excusing it, she added, but I was lonely. Brady saw me. He asked about my day. He noticed things. It wasn't planned. It just happened. Dr. Moreno scribbled notes and glanced at Ethan. Would you like to respond? He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. I gave you 20 years, built us a life out of nothing, a future neither of us dared to dream of. I didn't just love you. I worshipped you. I left meetings early to cook dinner. You forgot. I canceled key deals to take you to chemo. You never mentioned it again. And the reason I didn't comment on your hair? Last time I did, you accused me of pity. He paused. You changed, Lena. You needed someone to blame, and I got tired of being your villain. Lena recoiled. Even Dr. Moreno looked momentarily stunned. Thank you, she said softly. That was honest. Ethan checked the time. Are we done here? Yes, the therapist nodded. Same time next week. Outside, in the parking lot under gray skies, Lena caught up to him. You're like a stranger, she said. Cold, distant. He looked at her, calm. I felt everything, Lena. There's just nothing left. Her voice cracked. Please, don't blow everything up. He gave a quiet smile. You lit the fuse. You slept with my best friend. Hid it for months. Let our daughter carry the truth. You're the explosion. I'm just making sure I'm not buried in the debris. That night, Ethan stood at his study window. Rain painted silver lines across the glass. The house was quiet. Arya had gone to stay with her mother. He picked up his phone and dialed a number he knew by heart. It rang once. Then a voice answered. Hello? Rachel, he said gently. Brady's wife. A pause. I was hoping you'd call, she said. It's time, Ethan replied. You deserve the truth. I have all of it. Her breath caught. I had a feeling. He's been different for months. But I never imagined. Let's meet tomorrow, 10. I'll bring everything. The next morning, they sat in a quiet cafe just outside town. Ethan slid a sealed folder across the table. Rachel opened it with trembling fingers. Inside, photos, logs, receipts, messages. Her face shifted from confusion to revulsion to grief so deep it hollowed her out. She pressed trembling fingers to her mouth, trying to muffle the sobs rising from her chest. He said he was off on work retreats, business trips, mentoring programs. Her voice cracked, raw with disbelief. But this is how our family ends. Ethan stood still, his voice even, almost unsettling in its calm. You've got 3 paths, he said. Face him and find forgiveness. Drag him through court, or disappear. Let him believe he's invincible. Rachel lifted her gaze. Her eyes shimmered with tears, but they burned with resolve, not sorrow. I'm not vanishing. Ethan gave a firm nod. Good, because neither am I. As he turned away, she reached out, her fingers clutching his arm. Why are you doing this? She asked quietly. His expression softened, a glint of something almost tender in his eyes. Because nobody deserves to be crushed beneath someone else's deception, and because you're one of the only people he never expected would fight back. Ethan stepped outside. The turmoil that had once boiled inside him had cooled, not into peace, but into something more dangerous: determination. This wasn't just about Lena anymore. It was about everyone who had betrayed him. They would come to understand what remains of a man who's lost everything but his pride. And Ethan knew this. Dignity, when sharpened, cuts deeper than vengeance. In the days that followed, the air around Brady Mallard's firm grew tense. Whispers began to swirl, small and damning. Then came the emails, unsigned, unmistakable. Each one carried irrefutable proof. Images of Brady and Lena in compromising moments, luxury hotel bills, chat transcripts laced with mocking jokes about Ethan's open marriage. These weren't scandals that could be managed with PR spin. By Wednesday, security escorted Brady from the office. His investors vanished. His marriage collapsed that morning. Rachel filed for divorce, demanding sole custody and freezing all joint assets. And Ethan? He watched it unfold from a distance, until Lena called. It was just past 11. Her voice was faint, shaking. "They fired him," she whispered, as if saying it louder would break her. "Rachel took the house. She's going after everything." Ethan said nothing. "He's in a motel now," she continued. "He ended it. Said this wasn't what he signed up for." Ethan's voice turned cold. "Interesting. You both seem to thrive on shared delusions." She sniffled. "I deserve this. I just didn't think it would fall apart like this." "You thought you could betray someone who gave you everything and still walk away with a fairy tale?" His words sliced through the phone line. "You lit the fire, Lena. Now you're choking on the smoke." She broke down then, sobbing. "I'm scared. I don't know where to go. I need you." He leaned against the glass pane in his study, eyes closed, tone like steel. "You needed me when you were still in his bed." Then more quietly, "You let our daughter carry your secrets. You wept in therapy while she lied to protect you." A long silence. "What did Arya say?" he finally asked. "She's confused," Lena murmured. "She doesn't know where to stand." "No," Ethan said sharply. "She chose, just like you did." Another pause, then barely a whisper from her. "You used to say we could survive anything." He gave a hollow, bitter laugh. "That was before I realized we never meant anything to you." And he hung up. 2 days later, Ethan met Arya on her college campus. She ran to him, tears streaming down her face, holding him like the child who once thought he could fix everything. "Please don't shut me out," she sobbed. "I didn't know how to handle it. I thought I was protecting you." "You weren't protecting me," he said, voice gentle but steady. "You were protecting her. That's a big difference." She buried her face in his shoulder. "I was wrong, I know that, but I need you. I can't be with her alone." Ethan embraced her, his heart splintered with a father's unique grief, the ache of love twisted by betrayal. "I'm not cutting you off," he said softly, "but trust doesn't come with an apology. You'll have to earn it back." She nodded, shame heavy in her eyes. "I will, I promise." The final move came at a high-profile charity gala. It had once been Lena's kingdom. She and Ethan had graced every glossy publication, hands clasped, smiles practiced. But this night she arrived solo. Ethan appeared later, a vision of composure in a midnight blue suit, poised, measured, and with Rachel Mallard beside him. They didn't need to speak. Their entrance spoke volumes. Arm in arm, they ascended the stage. Then came the announcement, a dual donation from their newly launched charitable foundations. Gasps rippled through the room. At her table, Lena sat frozen, knuckles white around her napkin. Rachel stepped up to the mic, regal and poised. "Sometimes pain gives us purpose. Sometimes betrayal fuels transformation." Ethan took her place. "And sometimes, when someone walks out of your life, all they're really doing is clearing space for something better." Applause thundered around them, all except from Lena, who sat alone, pregnant, ashamed. The future she once built on deception had crumbled around her. "Ethan?" He didn't gloat, he didn't lash out, he simply moved on. She had chased a fantasy and shattered everything. He had taken the wreckage and built something greater. As he and Rachel exited through the grand hall, Ron, Ethan's lawyer, raised his glass. "I've never seen you smile like that," he said. Ethan met his gaze and returned the smile. "That's because this time it's for me." Months passed. Winter released its hold on Hartford. Spring arrived with a kind of peace, a silence born not of emptiness, but of healing. Ethan's home no longer echoed with past betrayals. It had been redesigned, not to erase the past, but to make space for what came next. By April, the divorce was finalized. Lena received her share, but her image was in ruins. No one saw her as the elegant wife anymore. She was the woman who gambled everything on an affair and lost. Brady, once a high flyer, now lived on the outskirts in a modest apartment, reputation demolished. Ethan's former colleagues had severed ties quietly. No fireworks, just the slow, quiet fade of relevance. And Ethan, he thrived in the calm. He began mentoring others, helping those clawing their way out of betrayal, financially, emotionally, legally. It was no longer about revenge. It was about leaving something meaningful behind. Arya came home every weekend. Their bond, though scarred, was slowly rebuilding. Love, though wounded, remained. One warm evening, they sat on the porch watching fireflies dance in the dusk. "I still feel ashamed," she whispered, "for hiding it, for choosing her." Ethan sipped his iced tea, then turned to her. "Good. That means your heart still works, but shame only matters if it changes something. And you've changed. That's what counts." Tears glistened in her eyes. "You're the best man I've ever known." He smiled faintly. "Then never settle for anyone less." Lena gave birth to a boy in a quiet hospital room. No visitors, no gifts, no father. Brady never came back. She named the baby Caleb. But the name couldn't fill the silence. Neither could the empty nights, the mounting bills, or the hushed voices of strangers at the store. 3 weeks had passed since the baby's arrival when she reached out to Ethan. Just a single call. He answered. I needed to hear your voice," she said, her voice faint and frayed with exhaustion. "I hope the baby's healthy," Ethan responded, his tone steady but cold. "But if you're looking for support, don't expect it from me." "I'm not," she said quickly. "I swear I'm not." "I only wanted to say I'm sorry," she added, "for everything, for how I treated you, for what I did to us. You didn't deserve any of it." Ethan shut his eyes. Her apology stirred echoes of pain he had spent months trying to quiet. "You're right," he said softly. "I didn't." Silence fell between them. Then he spoke again. "Take care of your son. Give him what we couldn't give each other." He ended the call. Not out of bitterness, he had none left, but because true healing sometimes demands closure without reunion. Sometimes you find peace by knowing when to walk away. A year slipped by. Ethan's nonprofit grew beyond anything he had anticipated. It thrived on truth, unfiltered emotional accounts from people brave enough to share their scars. Stories came pouring in from all walks of life: heartbreak, betrayal, survival. Ethan had turned his own pain into purpose. The wreckage of his marriage became the foundation for something meaningful, something that lit the way for others. At one event, Rachel stood beside him again on stage. Now she worked independently as a nonprofit consultant. What they shared wasn't romance, at least not yet. It was something more grounded: mutual understanding, shared evolution, a bond shaped by hardship, not flirtation. As the evening drew to a close, Ethan delivered a message that resonated through the room. "You don't owe anyone your destruction just to make them comfortable," he said. "If they're content to watch you suffer, let them go. Rebuild, start over, and when they see you rise from your own ashes, remind them, this fire is mine now." The crowd erupted in applause, loud and lasting. That night, under a sky brushed with starlight, Ethan turned onto his driveway. He stepped out of his car and paused. The air was crisp. The porch light blinked on automatically. Everything was quiet. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan didn't feel like the one who had been abandoned. He felt like someone who had survived the storm and now stood steady, ready to nurture something new. He smiled, not for anyone else, not out of revenge, but because the fight was behind him, and he had made it through intact. This is where the story ends. Feel free to leave your reflections below. Thank you for sharing in this journey. If this narrative spoke to you, there's more to discover on our channel. Until we meet again, friend.